Hey guys, it's Jamie here at selfdefenseguy.com. You can check us out on the web at www.selfdefenseguy.com. On Facebook at Self Defense Guy UK. You can get us on Twitter at Self Defense Guy 1. You can get us on the internet at Self Defense Guy, and also on our YouTube channel, Self Defense Guy TV. Okay, so welcome to blog 5 part 2, dealing with narcissistic personality types, or NPD for short. I decided to split this into 2 blogs. The first one is what to look for in terms of NPD personality types, with some warnings. The second part is potentially some strategies on how to deal with narcissistic personality types. Just to recap on the previous blog, I think it's interesting to note that NPD types can be charming and they can make great first impressions, so people are drawn to these types of people, and they are top class interviewers, and they rise to positions of power quickly, potentially not through any unjustified reasons. They have immediate jumps in success, but quickly over time, NPD types, when there's no immediate reward, when there's no feedback, when there's no conditioned reward or victory response, it can be a very short-term asset, because the success and effort diminishes once the reward is achieved, and the sustainable level of effort that's required for human interaction and consistent behaviours around the people that you care about, that you work with, that you socialise with, it disappears, and then they turn that energy on you. The energy that can't be directed into succeeding, into them being the big dog, will then be, turned around into making your life miserable, and it won't be pretty. And because you're a moral human being with a set of values that have developed from a very young age, you won't be able to compete in a war, in a head-on-head war, in 2 bulls smashing their heads together type of conflict with an NPD personality types, because their acceptance of behaviour that you would find unacceptable is well beyond what you are capable of. So just something to bear in mind. So ways to deal with the narcissist. Now, if we accept that narcissists are going to be part of your life, I've drawn quite heavily on a body of work by 2 people called Twenge and Campbell, and they've written a book called The Narcissism Epidemic. They also wrote a second book called Generation Me. I suggest you read both if you're interested in this sort of area of understanding of human behaviour, because I think they write some very succinct and easily understandable and absorbable text on this. So, ways to deal with the narcissist. The first one is very simple: cut them off. Cut them out of your life. Don't engage with them. Don't have anything to do with them. A difficult concept to get around, but any engagement with an NPD type will be false. It'll be based on lies and based on their own self-serving reasons. It won't be altruistic. You will have nothing to gain from this apart from some very shallow initial praise as they ramp up to achieving what they wanted to achieve and what they set out to achieve. In terms of physical self-defense, if there was someone in the next room holding a knife and screaming that they're going to kill you, you'd make the choice not to enter that room. In emotional self-defense, once we've recognised the traits in an NPD personality type, as referenced in blog 1, to protect yourself from an emotional assault, the safest way is not to engage with the NPD type, and that's really crucial. If you can, cut these types out of your life, because it will only be detrimental to you in the medium to long term. Okay, so that might not always be possible. Narcissists tend to rise to a certain level, potentially work, for instance. They rise, justified or otherwise, to periods, to positions of power, to superiority, and you might have no choice but to deal with them because you enjoy your job, you enjoy your career, you have extended relationships that rely on them, etc., etc. So I'm going to draw on some work by Robert Greene and his second book, The 48 Laws of Power, which is essentially a book about how you can manage your relationships effectively and how you can attain or rise to a powerful position within whatever field or area you're interested in. I would recommend it. So the number one of the 48 Laws of Power is don't outshine the master. That is, if you are attempting to fit into a structure, no matter how well intentioned or how good or high or acute your intelligence level is, or your effort level is, or your experience level is, if you're continually embarrassing the people above you, you are continually not making them look good, then this starts a personal issue between you and the master, the person in charge. And if you're overtly lauding your academic or professional achievements in front of them, it's going to cause you problems. Now, the book goes into tactics on this, and it goes into sort of discussion around what you might want to do in terms of acting when the time is right. It's a different video, different conversation. In this context, the example is simple. Kiss some ass. Give the narcissist what they want. They want praise, they want attention, they want a pat on the back for a job well done, justified or another. And if you've got a narcissistic person at work, you've got a narcissistic personality, remember the adage, you've got to get along before you go along. In your achievements, include them in it. Make them feel part of it. Make them take some stock in your achievements so that they are gaining what they want, adoration and praise and involvement. The good news is with a narcissist in a position of power is it's only a matter of time before they fuck something up. So you don't have to be the person that causes the fuck ups. You just have to be the person that bides your time until such a time as they get themselves into a box. Just do not get caught in that whirlwind, because if you do, you will be pulled into it, and very quickly it will become about your personal destruction. I guess the third thing I'd raise is NPDs very quickly make false promises, and they conveniently forget what they have promised in terms of making deals, partnerships, discussions, quid pro quo, for instance, work. Get what you want in advance, whether that's payment, whether that's recognition, whether that's some public laudation, whatever it is. If you get it up front, there's no wiggle room on their part to take it away from you, or indeed just forget about you. The fourth thing is, I would reference Skinner's work on classical conditioning, is that with an NPD personality type, if you understand what they want, and they want positive reinforcement, they want a pat on the back, you can use this to your advantage. That is, get them to associate positive emotional involvement with positive feedback. So, connect niceness and kindness and with attention and praise, and reinforce that behaviour. So, whether it's genuine or not, they are starting to behave well to you and your colleagues and your friends, because they are self-servingly wanting that feedback of praise and feedback of being publicly lauded. And the fifth and final thing, drawing on Twain and Campbell's work, is remember that narcissists don't necessarily care about you, but what they do care about is the appearance, the way their activities, their involvement, the things they do, the way it appears to the crowd. They don't care about how they behaved. They don't have guilt, but they do process shame, public shame. So make the narcissist look good to the crowd, and front discussions and ideas to them that make them look popular and make them make crowds and people that follow them give them praise for their behaviour, and it shines a positive light on them. So we can't always avoid narcissists, so I've got one strategy, which is avoid them completely if not possible. 4 other tactics, practical tactics you might want to consider in dealing with a suspected narcissistic personality type. I would suggest you review the first video on narcissistic traits, then review the second video on tactics in terms of dealing with narcissists. And in conclusion, what I would say is, there's an old saying around personal development, which is, you end up being the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time around. So if you spend your time around 5 hardened narcissists, that will dampen your empathy, and eventually it's going to cause it's going to generate narcissistic behaviours and narcissistic tendencies in you, and that's not something you want. So eventually you'll become just like them, and narcissists always lose in the end, and when they do lose, they lose badly, and they lose in the most overtly destructive fashions, and you don't want to be around that, but you also don't want to be the sort of person that develops that personality type, because you might get short-term gains, but in the long term it's a very, very flawed strategy. So that concludes blog 5.2. I will be following up with blog 6 about the F3 response, which will be the fight, flight or freeze response this week, so stay tuned for that. If you want to get me, you can get me at jamie@selfdefenseguy.com. Send me any comments, feedbacks privately you might want to, or you can put them on the social media at Self Defense Guy UK. That's on the Facebook. You can go on Twitter at Self Defense Guy 1. You can go on the Insta at Self Defense Guy, or see us on our YouTube channel at Self Defense Guy TV. Have a good week, guys. Take care. Stay safe.